Hello out there and welcome to another episode of the Elephant in the Room podcast. And this week we'll be going over to our predictions as we're moving into week 4. It seems like the season's moving kind of fast. And we're going to start off with a big matchup in the SEC. Auburn Tigers taking on the Oklahoma Sooners. And Jackson Arnold is making his return back to Norman. I want you guys' perspective and what to look out for this game. Oklahoma did win this game in Auburn last season. I want to say by a final score of 27-21. Jackson Arnold did not start that game for the Sooners as they made a start. They went with true freshman Michael Hawkins. And in that game, the big note in that game, Oklahoma were missing 5 of their biggest, their known receivers. 5 of their pass catchers were missing in that game. They even had a cornerback playing receiver in that game. So what are you guys expecting from this game this year as Jackson Arnold is making his return back to Norman?
A lot of chaos. Auburn and Oklahoma have a lot of new pieces, a lot of new faces and new places. Auburn has a new quarterback. Oklahoma has a new quarterback. So I really don't have I don't really have high expectations for this game whatsoever. I expect it to be competitive from the stance, from the point of view of like Auburn and Oklahoma, as somebody that I see as a upper middle tier in the SEC. These are teams that I would say yearly come out with either 2 or 3 losses in the SEC. So, it's the return of Jackson Arnold. That's going to be the story this Saturday. But this is going to be a really unpredictable game. I can't really call a true winner, but I expect a lot of chaos is what I expect out of this game.
Go ahead, Fan. What you got?
Bars with me, I'm gonna focus on Auburn at the quarterback position. I want to see if Auburn allows Jackson Arnold to throw the ball more now that we're in SEC play. As we all know that when they played Baylor and Ball State, him just running left, right, up the middle, side to side, this, that, and third, it's not gonna cut it in the SEC, and especially going on the road to Oklahoma, hostile environment, and it's going to be his homecoming. I want to see if they open up the playbook. I mean, you have Cam Coleman, Singleton, and a host of guys on the outside. So will they now open up the playbook and utilize those guys, or will they continue to run the ball? Now, granted, they do have Cobb in the backfield, who's been improving every week. So I'm kind of eager to see how their offense does. Defensively, I want to see, can they stop the momentum of Oklahoma while they're at home? When Oklahoma played Michigan at home, they were energetic. They had a lot of energy. They came out making big plays. So can Auburn go down there and win? I think it depends on the quarterback play. If they go down there just trying to run it, not trying to be one-dimensional, I think they struggle. But if they're run and pass and the defense do what they're supposed to do, I think they can come out with a very, very, very close victory in Oklahoma.
I think what I want to see, kind of like what we want, kind of how we want Alabama to do. That is Auburn. Auburn, yeah, they got all those playmakers on the outside, but Auburn still is one of those teams that wants to be physical up front and run the ball. And I happened to be in attendance for one of their games with Baylor. They were being physical. They were calling quarterback run plays like they usually do, and they were handing it off to the running backs. So I think for Auburn to get a jump in this game, I think they're going to have to win at the line of scrimmage on both sides, especially on the offensive line side of the ball. So when I know, like, the tradition of Auburn being more run first and run oriented with their offense, especially with a Hugh Freeze offense, little power option offense. So I do want to see that. And as far as they attack that Brent Venables defense, and on the flip side, I want to see a quarterback, John Mateer, his first SEC game. I want to see how he does facing SEC competition, this being his first test against SEC competition, stepping up. I know that He went against an NFL caliber, NFL level defensive coordinator in Wink Martindale when they took on Michigan. But I want to see what he does with guys that are a little bit more faster. I say a little bit more physical. They got Kedrick Falk and all those guys up front. So I want to see what Oklahoma does as well as far as their game plan. Now I think this will be a low scoring affair. I'll make my prediction. I say Oklahoma goes on and win this game. I'll say 24-20. I think it's gonna come down to a last minute stop or something like that, and Oklahoma pulls it off. But I think this game will be very fun and entertaining in a great way. To great start for those teams, and then Oklahoma and Auburn, but Auburn also can't be too down on their laurels because they have another big matchup that following week, which obviously we will get into as well with Texas A&M. But I know they would like to get a win on the road and then carry that momentum back again on the road against another Texas A&M Aggie team with a solid defense and carrying that momentum forward and try to replicate what they could potentially do this Saturday against Oklahoma. But with that being said, I think Oklahoma is going to pull it out because I think, as we've seen in these first few weeks, there's been coaching mistakes, coaching errors that have lost games. Now, I think Hugh Freeze kind of gets in his team's way and finds a way to mess up this game more than the players busting a coverage or something like that. Or I think Hugh Freeze does something that's like uncharacteristic and is like, okay, you just lost us the game, coach. You can't put that on the player. So that's what I see happening as far as I could be wrong, obviously, but that's what I just see because that seems to be the norm right now. I ain't gonna say the norm, but it seems to be a trend right now. Coaches not using their timeouts, coaches getting a little bit too conservative, or coaches doing something that they normally, or a pattern that they normally don't do. So that seems to be the trend going on right now as far as with late game and mid game execution. But I do think Oklahoma pulls this off and carries their momentum forward. And John Mateer is one of the better playing quarterbacks right now in the SEC, and he has a chance to stamp that. I'm going against a solid SEC opponent in their SEC opener. And that's all I pretty much got on that one. If anybody wants to take it again with that.
Yeah. I disagree with both of y'all. I think they both have playmakers on both sides. More importantly, the one that we watch, and I wouldn't say watch, but pay more attention to in our sister school down on the plains of Auburn. I just want to see them utilize that talent that y'all talked about. The Cam Coleman, the Perry Thompson, the Jeremiah Cobb. They got a young guy that just played high school football that I got a chance to witness play. Two of them. Kendrick Falk. They got his little brother over there on the team now. And then they have a young running back, Alvin Henderson. I would love to see eventually play, but I know he's not going to play right now. Auburn typically is known for their defense, especially their defensive line. I know times are changing the guard is happening all across, college football. But I guess overall what I would really say is I'm thinking 17-13 Auburn. So
I like that. I like the prediction. Like I said, this one of these matches I can deem as a toss-up. I don't really think there's a clear-cut favorite. Even I'm pretty sure Oklahoma's the favorite because they're at home. And you're always going to get a home team at least 3 points. And moving along, still keeping it, is featuring the SEC team with a coach that might be coaching his last game in Billy Napier and the Florida Gators versus the Miami Hurricanes. Now, Florida almost said Florida State. Now, Florida has a great defense, but it seems that the offense just can't get out of their own way and help the defense by putting points on the board. So that way the defense can just play with a lead, be aggressive, and send the pass rushers at the opposing team. What is your outlook this weekend as far as Miami versus Florida? Carson Beck, a former Georgia player, so this is a former SEC player going up against an SEC defense, and I've seen Carson Beck at times against SEC opponents becomes a deer in headlights and he just gets lost. But he seems to be a little bit more comfortable down there in that Miami system, versus running that Mike Bobo system. Even there's been some Georgia fans calling for him to get him up out of there, but. Like, what do we see in this matchup?
I see a potential blowout if BJ Langley hits the game. that he had on last week. It's really gonna depend on him. Like you said, Florida has a good defense. If he can help their defense out by not turning the ball over, putting points on the board, Florida can do something. But if he goes out there and throws multiple picks, it's gonna get ugly real quick because they are on the road at Miami, and Miami got a lot of momentum. Carson Beck doing a good job. He can't go down that playing. If he go down that playing, they can get ran out the state.
I will say this: do we think DJ Lagway, if he throws, let's say, 2 early interceptions, does he get benched?
Scratch.
The game
Scratch.
over with.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, it's just overall. First, I'm I text you game 1, and I text you again last week, and I said Lambo Bet. That's somebody that I really got my eyes on this year. Other than Arch, was the only other person, but I think there's some other issues that I think we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
But Carson Beck, who has already been in Heisman talks in years prior, when he was at Georgia. He's no stranger to having good stats. He got 800 yards on the year so far, seven touchdowns, 2 picks. I think he threw one of his 2 picks last week. I think this is another stepping stone game for Miami and Lambeau, and pushing towards their idea of what they missed out on last year. They had a fantastic team last year with Cam Ward, who just about led them to the cusp of college football playoff berth. But, 1 or 2 plays here or there. I don't think that Miami's looking for any false steps. And I do think this is Billy Napier's last game as far as head coach. But I don't think it all falls on his shoulders. Especially last week, you got a defense that put out an amazing game, and then you send a kid out there, and like I said, we texted about that game too. Felt like you killed his confidence, in that game. After 3 picks, you got to go ahead and pull him, and you had a chance all the way down to the very last minutes of the game. You still could have probably put something together, but you kept a guy out there that had no confidence. So I don't expect Lagway to walk into Miami, Hard Rock Stadium, down in the Gardens, and pull out any type of performance past what we've seen, and that's just stating the obvious. But I'm leaning towards the blowout side. 35-10.
Oh, another thing I will say too, this is still a young quarterback. Granted that he took over for Graham Mertz. He's still like a situation like that. I don't think he was in that situation last season. So it's still some situations that is just like, okay, we're struggling kind of with this pass, but let's try to get enough of this run game going to kind of make it easy on our quarterback to where he's not forcing throws. So that's another thing I feel like they couldn't do as an offense to prevent something like that happening. But he's on a short leash.
It also stresses the importance of when somebody gets film on you, they can completely change how you play the game. And last year, they didn't have film on Lagway. So when he came in and out of games, he made more impacts because there wasn't a lot of film on what he was good at. As soon as this year came, you see a difference from the game plan level against him, is what I think also plays into that.
Yeah, I can agree with that. It makes a whole lot of a difference, especially even with NFL quarterbacks from year 1 to year 2, and see how it goes. So yeah, I can agree with that. But I'll still stick to that point of kind of help your quarterback out. And then also, obviously, the biggest thing is because you want to help that defense out. I mean, sometimes necessarily you don't even have to. I would say you want to put points on the board, but sometimes you just want to flip the field enough and give your defense a rest so they can come out there fresh and ready to get after Carson Beck and fluster him and stuff like that. Like, you don't want to just keep throwing them out on the field because we're going 3 and out. We can't move the ball because eventually you're going to get a score, like you said, Dre, a 35-10. Now, with my prediction, I'll go ahead and say Miami wins. I know they won last year in a blowout, 41-17 or whatever the final score was. But this one, I'll give it I think the score is going to end up being big late, but I think it's going to be because Miami just pulls away in the fourth quarter. I'll just say Miami wins it 34-20. There we go. That's my prediction. And what do you got for us, Finn, as far as a final score?
35-10.
Jesus. So we got two blowouts and It might be good for 3.5 quarters, and Miami is eventually going to pull away.
I mean,
And
we giving.
segueing,
I was about to say we giving Florida 10 out of respect.
yeah,
To
I'm
be
already.
honest,
Yeah, I don't think they can go out there and
we
I
spotting
don't
them
think.
10.
Yeah, I don't think DJ Lagway will do that twice. He might
Yeah.
not even have a chance to do that twice. I'll just say that. And then
Yeah.
we're gonna shift gears and go. I'm gonna try to switch it up a notch. And put it on the Big 12. We got Texas Tech, $25 million roster, taking on the Utah Utes in the Big 12 showdown, 17 versus 16. I know a lot of eyes don't pay attention to the Big 12, but I, for one, was paying attention, especially when they announced how much money Texas Tech spent on their roster. So you're always going to pay attention to a team like that. And how far can this team go with that roster? Like you spend big money on a roster. I'm pretty sure those Bruce are expecting some type of return, some type of equity. Like, hey, we at least want you guys to make it to the first round of the college football playoff with this money we put in the roster. You know what I'm saying? And be able to compete. So what do we want to see from these guys? Like I said, this is a Big 12 matchup. I want to say it's a big noon kickoff game. I'm not sure.
Let's see. How the fan go first?
Go ahead, fan.
Isn't it?
Hopefully it's a defense. Plus, Texas Tech, they're not really known for defense. They're known for offense. Going on the road to Utah, I want to see how they play with that $1 million roster, however much they spent on it.
$25 million.
A lot of money.
$25 million. Yeah, I just want to see how they respond. I do got Texas Tech winning on the road.
Texas Tech has a very expensive roster. It's time for that roster to pay dues, even on the road. I don't care if it is Utah. I don't care if we play at 11 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Tech and foe. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna go with 28-14 out there in the Big 12. I want to see big things out of Texas Tech. Seriously,
yeah, it's a big noon kickoff. 11 a.m. for us since we're in that Central Time zone.
Yeah,
y'all, you're saying a 28-14. I'm gonna go. Cal Whittingham and Utah teams usually have a pretty legit defense. Not really, saying one of the. I wouldn't say a top 10 defense. They might have a top 15, top 25 defense as far as college football goes, which is not bad out of 136 teams, however there is now. But so I don't think Texas Tech just, lights up the scoreboard per se. And as far as Utah offense, I don't, I haven't really been paying much attention. I know, they had Cam Rising, who was on the team for about 9 years. He finally gave it up.
2 years.
Yeah, so he finally gave it up. But I think if Texas Tech wants to get more respect, nationally, this is a game that they have to win, especially, like I said, like we're going to keep saying it throughout the show, well, at least in this segment, with that $25 million roster, like these are the types of games that you have to win. So I will, like Finn said, I don't see a 28-14. I actually see this going in a shootout. I'll go 38-31 Texas Tech. And I'll highlight the rest of their schedule. After this, they have
they
have a
don't
bye
have
week. Then they
nobody.
have Houston. Okay.
So they gotta win the Utah game. That's the only ranked team on this schedule.
Yeah. Win. So this is and then they got to become big Utah fans and hope Utah fans don't fall off the face of the earth the rest of the way. So it seems like Texas Tech, what we said preseason with Clemson, it seems like their conference is to lose. So this seems like if Texas Tech goes on to win this game, which I think they will, this is Texas Tech's conference to lose. But in the same breath, some teams like this, can you really trust? They put the money in, they want to see it. They want to see, what I'm saying? They want to see what this product does on the field. So far, it's looking so good against the first three opponents they had, but now we're opening up, in conference play. And this is your first big test. Against a top 20 team. So, but I think they can pull it off in old Salt Lake City, Utah. And we're going to stay out of conference and go on and go to the ACC with Clemson and Dabo Swinney, with his press conference. Dabo Swinney seems to be living in the past I mean, I give them credit for that. Winning the ACC 8 out of the last 10 years, going to 4 national championships and winning 2 of them. But they want to know what have you done for them lately? I know you won the conference. You got in the playoffs last season on a technicality, and then this season you off to a rough start. Like, you pretty much struggled in all 3 games that you have played. So they're playing a Syracuse opponent. This is not a pushover. They have lost to this team in the past on their way to a championship of some sort. So what do we see from Clemson? Is this a bounce back game? Like, and when I mean bounce back, they actually dominate the game start to finish and they win it. Not just, hey, they struggle and then they get a win, but do they bounce back and kind of put themselves at least for contention for the ACC? Or this same old Clemson that we've seen the first 3 weeks, they struggle, and then whatever happens.
I see them lose.
1-3 start?
Yep.
1-3 start? Syracuse
this
on the
point-
road?
At this point that they're right now, my expectations for Clemson are falling hard by the week. I mean, you start off like we said a couple of days ago. You start off the season with a tough game against LSU at home. You lose that one. You struggle in a win over Troy, where Troy led a good bit of that game. Okay, you lose last week. You're a little shell shocked at practice. It's a little quiet when you bounce around now. There's a little loss of a bounce of a step, right now at practice. And unfortunately, me and Ant been in a locker room where we came off 2 losses back to back and really sucked. You know what I'm saying? Because it takes a different light out of practice, out of meetings, out of workouts, and it puts you in a situation in a mindset where, like, with the playoffs, it's different. You can still get back into it, but you gotta imagine that, like, when you're already on your toes are that far already on the cliff, it's kind of hard not to look over and see the edge and say, "Dang, we can't mess up anymore, like, at all." And Syracuse is the type of team that'll come in here and mess it up
Catch
for
you while you're
good.
vulnerable. Catch you while
Yeah.
you're vulnerable. Just put
For
you out your
good.
misery even more. I'll say Clemson wins, but they're gonna struggle. I give Clemson this game, I'll say 23-16. Like, I don't think they're gonna I don't think they're gonna dominate. This team is, overhyped, mediocre. Dabo is, Dabo, the same old arrogant Dabo that he's always been. Is just now more, more in his ways, and so that's what I see. I don't think they dominate this game. So it's just another. Of course, you never apologize for winning, but the way you're looking, you want to. I guess I'm not gonna say a signature win, but you want to win to at least feel good about, because this is not a signature win. This ain't basketball as far as Syracuse. This is still a tough team to go against. Like, saying just can't look over them, but you're not gonna be like, okay, we feel good about beating Syracuse 23-16 or beating them 38-10. Like, either way it go, you're supposed to do that. That's what you're supposed to feel as Clemson. I think that's what they're feeling, but that's not the roster that they got anymore. So, and even when they did, like you said, Finn, even when they just had those quarterbacks, they still were kind of struggling with these teams, the Syracuse's, the Wake Forest. So, yeah, it's pretty much going to be much of that the same. Yeah, they'll get to 2-2, but it's not going to be a pretty win. It's going to be an ugly win, but a win nonetheless. And to shift focus back to the SEC, I wanted to highlight this game because Ole Miss has started 3-0 again. They're playing a group of 5 team in Tulane, a sneaky team that can, contend for a playoff spot or, be in a New Year's Six bowl game, however, if it was still a 14 system. A team that you can't look over because Ole Miss has a big game next week against LSU at home, but you want to take care of business and not get caught slipping versus a Tulane team. So what do we expect from Lane Train? Because these are the types of games that Lane Train does. They do lose. Ole Miss, they do lose games like this. Like last season when they lost to Kentucky, we didn't think they were going to lose to Kentucky, especially the way they did. So what's the outlook for Ole Miss versus Tulane going into the week before you play LSU, the third ranked team in the country right now?
I think by them being at home, they should be able to handle it. If they can just focus on Tulane and not look ahead to LSU, I think they'll take care of business and win by 2 touchdowns. I think they'll cover the spread and win by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm with Fan. No false steps for Ole Miss. Ole Miss is hopefully, I'm not very early saying this, but I'm very hopeful saying this. Ole Miss is gonna finally punch their tickets to the college football playoff this year, somehow, some way. I think, and I don't think it stops with the loss to Tulane early in the season. I'm hoping that Lane Kiffin has finally got over some of his coaching gaffes, and he'll finally go ahead and find a team that he can push across the finish line. So, 24-17.
24-17. So a struggle. I'm gonna go Ole Miss 31-21. Even though they're coming off a shootout versus Arkansas, but I'm gonna go 31-21. Something comfortable. What about you, Fan?
35-21.
Okay. Moving on along, I think we got our last SEC matchup. South Carolina versus Missouri. I haven't heard much about Lenoir Sellers. Is he going to be playing or not? But like I said, we said in the previous show, Missouri is coming in hot. You know, they had that big win over Kansas in that rivalry game that they haven't played in like 15 years. They got a good running game, solid pass game. They're 3-0, 23rd in the country. South Carolina, as we've seen without Sellers, they're pretty much non-existent. What do we expect from this game? Can South Carolina, I think they're not ranked at the moment now, but can South Carolina kind of get back into the thick of things and hopefully be in a playoff chase at the end of the season, kind of how they were last season? Or if they lose this game and it's pretty much, hey, it's over, because they still got, I think they still have LSU and Alabama coming up. So what do we see from South Carolina, Missouri?
If Sellers out, they not winning. They showed it last week that if he ain't back there behind the center, they ain't really got no chance. So, at right now, he's questionable, but if he don't play, I don't see it. I don't see that man, to be honest. I just don't.
South Carolina, Missouri, throw it in the trash. It's a garbage game. Nobody wants to see that. I don't care. I don't care if Sellers line up back there or not, man. You know what I'm saying? Just considering the performance that the team put on overall last week, I really feel like compared to last year, again, I'm saying the same thing with Sellers that I said about Lagway earlier. People got a little more film on you this year, so they're going to take away some of your strengths, especially in Nick Harbor. Like, you really just got to play over the top of the kid. Don't let him use his take the top off speed. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't have, man. In Missouri, we appreciate you being part of the SEC every year.
They go start up. They start off high early and kind of fizzle out. I'm gonna go South Carolina. Not South Carolina. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go Missouri. 28-14.
I'm gonna say something else at the end of the show about Missouri.
Okay. Gotta get it off your chest if you want to. I think as far as like matchups and outlooks, I think that's what we have. You know, I'm not really going to get into Alabama because, I mean, you know, this show is really catered around Alabama football. But, you know, it's a bye week. We just, you know, continue on the things that you've done well these last 2 weeks and these wins, these big wins that you had, and carry it over into the game next week. We obviously know who we're facing or who they're facing, so we don't really have to get into all that with Alabama. But as far as the elephant in the room this week, America's college football darling, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, seem to still be ranked in the top 25 despite their 0-2 starts. What do we have to say about that? We all know how much I'm such a big fan of Notre Dame. Sarcasm. But what do we have to say about that? Are they trying to keep them in the good graces of hopefully they can climb out of that and get in a playoff spot? What do we see was wrong? I mean, I think we all know kind of the voting system as far as that is flawed with that. Because you got Clemson, at least Clemson's 1-2. They're not ranked, but this team is 0-2. Hasn't won a game, and they're ranked 24th. Hanging on by a thread, but ranked nonetheless. So what do we got with that before we get out of here?
How I see it, if they lose another game, they gonna drop them all the way down. You know how on ESPN where you got the not ranked, they got the teams at the bottom. They won't be on that if they lose another game. That's really what they setting them up.
Yeah, and then I know they got Purdue this weekend, so I think I'm not really gonna say just that's a gimme win because you never know what's gonna happen. You got to line up and play.
And
but
it's a rivalry.
History tells us. I mean, it was a rivalry last year, and they put up like 70 on them. But history tells you that Notre Dame is gonna more times than not beat Purdue more than they lose that game. But they just need a win. But yeah, I don't like that. What have they done to earn that 24th spot? I see a lot of teams, we're rewarding Alabama for beating Wisconsin a year on my road. Yeah, I mean, you win, you move up, but you're rewarding a team. Granted, they dropped from where they were, but you're still keeping a team in the polls that is 0-2. According to my knowledge or history, I've never seen that. So that was my biggest gripe when I saw that. And I want to say also shout out to the homeschool. The Prattville Lions got a big game this upcoming weekend against, our rivalry up north, the Hoover Buccaneers. I go to Hoover, classic line. But will any of you guys be in attendance for that? Y'all know I'm not there in the area, but will any of you guys be in attendance for that game?
I'm thinking about going.
I'm thinking about it too. I'm highly considering it just to sit in the stands at the new stadium. See something that this is what you want to see. 2 7A schools battle it out. I think Hoover is on a 1-3 start on the year, and Prattville is on a 3-1 start on the year. They a couple plays here,
two opposite sides of the totem pole.
Yeah, a couple plays here and there from being 4-0, but overall, Hoover, who doesn't have near as much of the talent that they've had in years past, they do still have a good bit of talent. They've played some pretty hefty teams, already in the year. They play IMG, which I think might have been, a little bit more than what they were bargaining for early in the year. They played some pretty good homegrown teams in Hillcrest and Hoover Trustful, and they lost those 2 games by a combined 11 points. So losing those 2 games at home and having to come down to Prattville, and a couple years ago you played Prattville pretty regularly in the regular season, and now here again some years later having to play them again with a new regime, a new coach on the sideline. I'm really interested. I think it could be not necessarily an upset, but I am pulling for the home team. I'm thinking something around 35-21, something like that. I'm thinking that we can out athlete them.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, as far as Hoover's been it ain't been hoovering. I'll just say that. I mean, I know as far as the home school goes, we always gonna pull for the home school, but how we haven't been in a state championship game in like 11 years and counting, and so we kind of want to get back to where we were as far as we got the right coach in there now, and he seems things seem to be going right. But this, even though Hoover, the record says what the record says, but this is still a game that could be like, hey, can build a confidence, and we can do something with this game moving forward, and then want to be able to compete, because we chasing Thompson now, a school that used to be a little brother, but now they the big brother, they the big dogs now. So, but Prattville wins this game. I'm gonna go 28-17, and hopefully we come back. We do our next show. We're gonna be celebrating those guys and congratulating them on that victory. If not, we're still gonna congratulate those guys for a hard fall game. And on that note, thank y'all for checking in. Cornelius Fenderson, Dre Davis, and I am your host, Anthony Likes. And this was the Elephant in the Room podcast. Thank y'all for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe, and roll tide.